The first rule in grip sport is you tell everyone about grip sport.
Crushing, pinch grip, thick bar, wrists.
If the best guy in the world can't lift 100 pounds on it, I don't give a shit about it.
Welcome back to another episode of the Grip Show. So, with me, I have Jason Dingey, the current leader of Team Ohio and the current North American Grip Sport champion. So, Jason, how you doing today?
All right, you?
Not too bad. Ready to jump into it here. I don't know. Like I said, we probably got a lot of subjects we can get into, but when I first kind of started finding stuff through Jed's channel online, he would live stream some of his competitions. That's where I first kind of encountered your name or got to see you lift. Didn't even realize you were from Ohio. And at the time, like I said, I had lived out of state and stuff, but I was from Ohio. So I was just seeing people like Jed and Tim Butler, whoever was at those competitions, and kind of familiarizing myself with the names. And that's the first time I really kind of, found out who you were and kind of saw some of your lifts was on one of his live streams for a competition. For you, weight training in general, I guess growing up, when did you first really get into strength training, lifting any type of weights, even non-grip stuff, just any type of strength lifting?
Oh, that's probably 11 or 12. Had an uncle give me one of those like Sears weight sets, the plastic weights with like cement inside or whatever.
Yeah.
Messed around with that for a little while.
And then did you do any like athletics or anything kind of growing up, or like, because some people have like a sport background, other people it's like they didn't really do sports but they still lifted and trained. What kind of stuff I guess did you kind of do?
When I was a kid, I played baseball mostly.
Okay.
And played baseball, a couple years of basketball. Played baseball up until high school, but not in high school. Played football 1 year, like 7th grade football, and didn't really, wasn't into it.
Yeah.
So that's all that was about it. Then I just lifted in high school.
Okay. And what kind of I guess with how you started off with maybe like the earlier weight set to probably getting more access to maybe better gyms or better weights, or kind of maturing and getting a better idea about training over the, however many years it would be. How did your training start to change in the beginning, I guess? From kind of like, I got this little weight set to like, okay, I'm in this weight room, and you start taking it more serious. What was that like?
Yeah, I think it was 8th grade, like 13, something like that. I had an older cousin. He's about, 15 years older maybe. And he was big into powerlifting. Laney Simone, short guy. He lifted in the 148 class.
Okay.
Drug free. But he deadlifted and squatted 500 at that weight. He won a lot of stuff. So he had a nice gym in his basement. The old York sets, weights.
Yeah.
He's got the nice deep dish plates and all that stuff. So he showed me the power lifts. So for a couple of years, probably I would, like 3 times a week, I'd go over to his house and work out.
And then
Then started in the high school gym later on. But no really guidance.
Yeah.
Just kind of doing the powerlifting type stuff.
Okay.
At that point.
What it might be hard to judge the timelines, but what were some of your lifts looking like around that time? Were you maybe like ahead of the curve? Like, were you a little bit stronger than you thought starting off? Or was it one of those deals where like maybe you weren't that strong early on, and then like over some time you really kind of took off with some of the numbers? But what like roughly, if you could kind of guess.
I remember being in 8th grade, like one of the first few times we squatted there in a rack, and I squatted 350. And
okay, no, I mean for 8th grade, that's pretty damn good.
I remember benching. Let's see, when did I benching a little over 200 pounds at that time?
Okay.
Then I think when I remember benching 300 when I was 16 maybe.
Okay, so yeah, I mean but that's a pretty good like path, you know. I mean those are pretty solid numbers for a younger kid kind of coming through and maybe not even really. I mean, obviously you're taking it serious enough to do it, but maybe not having like the best programming or the experience to fully know everything that you know now, obviously. Um, but yeah, so with that being a good start, you get into college and other stuff later on, right? Like, when do you think you feel like you almost like matured and pretty much hit like, hey, I'm like benching 400, or when you got to like maybe some of your better lifts overall? Like, what was kind of your peak time with that, or
Yeah, I
what were some of
remember
your goals?
the summer after I graduated high school. I remember doing 385 for a double on bench,
Mhm.
and I don't remember and I squatted 485 I think for a double that while I was in high school. Don't remember what I deadlifted. And then after I graduated, I don't know, for the first couple years, first couple years of college, I stayed, went to the branch campus here close to home, and I don't know, I think I slacked off on the lifting a little bit. But then when I got down to Athens at Ohio University, I joined a gym down there and found some people to train with. And that's after a year, I think after 1 year down there, I benched 500. That was the most I'd ever done.
Okay, and is that still probably a
I
PR for you,
up to
or
615. Yeah, I had done that several times throughout like 5, 6 year period, but every time I got up to that level, I'd always have like shoulder pain.
okay? And you said that was a 500 something bench, or what was that? Sorry.
500 even, yeah.
Okay.
Touch and go.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But I mean, raw bench press. That's pretty ridiculous. I mean, like I said, that's I don't know. Like I said, strong numbers to me, and that's really a strong number for almost anybody. You know what I mean? There's
Yeah,
not
that
a whole
was
lot
like
of
a big goal, I remember.
yeah. Did you have any
185.
other lifting goals other than maybe hitting the 500 on bench? Was there anything else you were kind of training for? Because were you doing any meets or competitions or anything, or just strictly kind of chasing your own goals?
I did one meet in college, and I only benched, like, I think 408, 185 kilos. They were using kilos. It was in right around Springfield.
Okay.
They used to have they call it the Big Three, a big meet every like January. The guy I knew from college lived over there, and I went over with him. And yeah, I wasn't squatting at the time. I hurt my knee right out of high school, and it was never the same, and only got worse. And then I found out, I had torn cartilage in it, and so I never, I don't know, I did start squatting it in college and got up to like 635 in the gym. That was the most I'd ever done.
Yeah, but like I said, all these numbers you're throwing out are
I
solid.
just did a bench in the meet, and that was it.
Okay, kind of bench only.
And then I was gonna go to, like, I don't know, the National Collegiate Powerlifting deal or whatever, but I started having shoulder pain and right before that, so I ended up not doing that.
Okay, and then I
Then
know.
I get into some strongman stuff. I started getting interested in that.
Yeah, that's the next thing I was going to ask you about, is because I know that when we did your gym tour, you had like a really cool strongman trophy out of all your
Mhm.
collection of stuff you have. Um, and I was going to ask you kind of about, like the time frame you got into the strongman stuff, and I guess shifting from maybe those like 500-pound benches, 600 plus squats and stuff like that were your goals maybe on that side to I guess the transition into doing some strongman stuff and what that looked like.
Yeah, I think I started getting Milo at that time in the mid to late '90s. And they had covered all that stuff, and then I found out they used to have them in Columbus. Um, I can't think of his name right now. Nick.
I wish I knew it. Yeah, like I said, I don't know.
He used to go by Dino Nick on the. Nick Osborne.
Okay.
He had a nice gym in somewhere in Columbus there, and he was putting them on. And the first I went, that was 2000. So this is a little after college. 2002, I went up there and did. He used to call it Dino Days.
Okay. And was
Uh,
that's the first time you did like anything kind of strongman like related competitively? Had you trained
yeah,
much for it, or was it kind of just winging it when you went out there?
I trained a little bit. I'd see. I met Mike after in the meantime between when I graduated from Athens, came back home, and went to they opened up a new gym at the branch campus out there, and Mike was working, Mike Saffel.
Okay. Yeah.
He's working the desk or something out there. So I met him, and he would train the stuff with me. I think I made a log. I made a set of farmers and an axle, and one of my buddies made me some stones.
Hmm.
So yeah, we had a nice little collection of stuff. So yeah, that contest, this guy was nuts. It was all day deals. It was like I think there were 8 events.
Hmm.
It started at 10 a.m. This was in August, and it was dark as we were getting done
Like all day.
outside in the park. No, it was insane. I mean, there were a lot. Steve Slater was there. I met him there.
Hmm.
I think Steve's a few years older than me, maybe, but yeah, he won the 275 class.
Okay, that's cool. He's competing. Yeah.
I think
I wasn't fully aware of his
I won the
background either,
super
but
heavy class, but I was like fourth overall or something.
yeah. Trying to think of
But
anything.
they had
Okay, sorry, Jason. Keep going. My bad.
a couple pros there. Jesse Morunde was there.
Mhm.
He had just qualified for a World's Strongest Man. He came. He was there, and Don Pope. You ever hear
Mhm.
Don? He's from around Cleveland.
Yep.
I think he ended up getting second one year in World's Strongest Man. He was really good.
Yeah, he was up there. I'm trying to think. There was something with I don't know if it was a grip competition or maybe it was a strongman type deal, but something that Jed did. I feel like it was like Jed, Rick Walker, and they had a picture with Don Pope or something, but I forget what kind of competition it was. But I remember the name from that and from the other stuff, obviously. But yeah.
Those guys they did a couple events each as like a exhibition.
Hmm.
I remember, and we had a hand over hand pulling a van loaded with a bunch of stuff or whatever, and I beat Jesse on that. I remember.
Oh yeah, that's pretty cool. Do you feel like he was
I don't
trying
know if
all
he
out?
gave it his all or anything. I don't know. There
Yeah, he
because there
might
were
have just
only
been
two
screwing
of us
around.
that he could finish that. It was tough.
Yeah,
But
yeah, and that's the thing too. Like if they're doing exhibitions, it's hard to know if like anybody's like really going all out, or if they're just maybe just kind of doing it as a
yeah,
warm up. I guess you'd have to be there to really know. You know what I mean?
I mean,
Just
it
to be
looked
able to
like he
like
was
see
trying, but yeah, I mean, I don't want to. I'm not going to say I.
it. Right.
Oh, but like yeah, like the third event in, it was a stone like a Husafel stone hold. It was like 400 pounds. It was sitting on a keg. You pick it up and stand there as long as you could hold it, and then you drop it, and then you go pick up a farmer's and do a hold with that. And we had 330 pounds of hand on those,
Mhm.
and I think I was the only one that picked them up and held them.
Okay, and
So
I don't want.
after
Yeah,
15 seconds, I dropped them and I looked and I tore calluses on both hands,
nice. Yeah.
2 or 3 of them on each hand, and I was just looking at them, my hands bleeding, and I'm like, I don't know, I guess I'm done. And
What
my
events
wife was
followed?
there, the girlfriend at the time, and she ran to the car, got the first aid kit, and then cleaned them up and bandaged them up and sent me back in. And I,
What were the other events that followed that after you messed your hands up? Do you remember? Was there anything else like crazy, like, oh, we had to deadlift or we had to do this? Was there anything else that was like wild on the hands that, I mean, you almost
uh,
need your hands for most lifts, but I wasn't sure how bad they
Single
were.
fingers we did.
Okay, not too bad if you're kind of just pushing,
No,
right?
nothing too bad. It was like a stone throw. We had like a 120-pound Atlas stone we had to throw.
Okay, so yeah, not the
That's
worst.
like
It's not like you had to do like
like
a car
uh,
deadlift for reps, you
the
know?
first, yeah, like the second event was a deadlift. We did a deadlift on a
Okay,
3-inch axle. It was
okay,
like 400 pounds for reps. I remember that. I did good on that.
yeah. Um, and you said you took fourth that competition,
Yeah, I think I was fourth overall.
like fourth overall. Okay, and then how many competitions did you do, kind of doing strongman stuff or in that scene? Because like you won first in the one where you got the trophy, right? That the trophy that I was referring to.
From West Virginia, that one. I think the
Yeah,
Mountaineer.
yeah.
First in the, I didn't get first overall in that.
Okay,
But so this was 2022, and that was in August. I did this first contest in Ohio, and then the next May or something they had a Mountaineer one in West Virginia. That was so I did that. Yeah, Phil Fister was there on the mic. It was a lot of people there. It was at a racetrack up. It was pretty neat. Yeah, Dave Osland. I'm sure you've heard of him.
yep, yeah.
He won. He was in the 275 at that time. He was much smaller. He was young too at that time. He's younger than me. So I won whatever super heavyweight, and he won the 275, and he won overall heavyweight.
Okay, yeah. So they basically had it
That's
broken up.
when that trophy was from. But yeah, I didn't get he
Okay,
won the overall.
gotcha. So yeah, they basically had it broken up by weight class, but then also an overall that went with it.
Yeah.
That's okay. Yeah. And then I guess with the background kind of being, based off of, doing a lot of the power lifts and training some of those main compound lifts coming up, kind of dipping in and actually competing in the strongman side of things for a little bit. When did, and like I said, I mean, doing 330 per hand for, a farmer's pick and hold. Um, did you notice that you had pretty strong grip early on? Was there any like inclination that your grip was pretty good or above average, or do you feel like it wasn't?
Yeah.
And then
It
once you got
was.
into grip, it improved.
No, I think it always seemed to be better than
Okay,
other people's I was lifting with.
gotcha. All right. So, what's the first time you sort of find out about maybe feats of grip strength, competing in something grip strength based? When does that kind of enter your like strength training world or your mind?
Well, from having Milo, I would see like the Captains of Crush
Hmm.
ads. So around 2002 or three, I bought a couple grippers. I think I bought a number like a two or a two and a three the first time. Uh, Closed the two right out of the package. I ended up closing the three. I don't know, 6 months later or something. Then I got
Okay,
like a
and
one, then I got a one and a four, and then I got a hub and a Rolling Thunder around that time too.
okay, and you said early, like to mid 2000s there for
That was
that.
like 2002 or three.
Okay, so pretty early on. I mean, really early on, honestly. Uh, Especially in regards to like a
I
lot
mean,
of the
I didn't know anybody in a contest or anything like that. I just saw the stuff and
yeah.
thought it looked
Um,
neat. I always liked that type of stuff.
so were you just kind of training that stuff on your own for a long time before you sort of started seeing it being held in competitions, or I guess maybe you could see it
Yeah,
maybe in the magazines, you know?
yeah. I mean, it messed around with the Rolling Thunder every once in a while, and the hub. I didn't even know how to chalk a hub. I was like, I couldn't do any weight on it because I didn't know to put chalk on it.
Yeah, you're just lifting slick and it's like, oh, I got
Also, you
25
could
pounds.
put a 25-pounder weight on there. I couldn't. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. So I really didn't. But I just do grippers every once in a while. And I think it was 2000. I'm gonna say three or four, but I think it was three. I was at the Arnold, and I closed to 3, and I went to the Iron Mine booth,
Okay. Yep.
and Jesse Morunde was at the booth, and I said, "Hey, is Randy around?" And he said, "Oh, he's over taking pictures of weightlifting or something." And they had grippers there on their table. Well, I was like, hey, well, I want to try to close this 3. And he's like, all right. And I warmed up a little bit and ended up closing it in front of him. And he said, yeah, you got it. And took my contact information down and got an email from Randy, I don't know, a couple weeks later saying, well, it doesn't, that's not good enough for our list or whatever. Certified.
Yeah.
So
Did that make you want to then certify or kind of pursue that, or did you didn't really
yeah,
even
but I
think that was a
didn't
thing?
until 20 years later.
Okay, so you
I don't
have
know,
20.
whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, and by then
I
they
mean,
changed
I
the rules,
thought about
right?
it every once in a while. That's when you had to. Well, I don't. You got to meet up with somebody somewhere. I don't know
Yeah,
who's
in-person
around.
judging,
No
right?
idea who's even. Yeah, they would get around here, but
Yeah.
so I
Um,
just I never really did it till a long time later. So
and that was under the new set of rules, right? With a credit card set.
not when I did that. There was no credit card. It was like right before
Well,
that. So
I was gonna say when you certified like 20 years later, right?
oh yeah. The
Yeah,
20,
because you're
20, I think.
okay. Because you're gonna say you're on the 3 list. Have you done the 3.5 or no? I can't.
No, not officially. I've done one in
Yeah.
training.
Okay. Yeah, because I remember I felt like your name was on the list for like the updated thing, but like you saying that you were closing threes 20 years before that and whatever. I didn't know that info, really. So that's cool to hear. Um, and then I know they had different competitions that you would have seen from the Iron Mind implements and things, and maybe the magazines and stuff. When did I guess when was really your first kind of like grip strength competition, or when you started to think, hey, I might jump into this and try that now, or hey, I've been kind of dabbling in this stuff. Where there's a competition coming close by, or hey, I might travel to this thing and do this sport, like, or because probably then back then it really wasn't a sport technically. They might have had like exhibitions or people lifting on the stuff or trying to do record breaker type stuff, but you probably didn't have like organized organizations really doing it. At what point did you feel like you?
Yeah, I didn't know about anything back. There was one of the, they had a pro strongman competition in Columbus that Nick put on. Had a bunch of the world top guys came there one year, 2004 or 5, something like that. And in between events, they were going to have they were taking like a break during the day, and they were going to have a Rolling Thunder contest, and
Okay.
anybody could get in it. And I was going to do it. Went up to watch it. I was going to get in there, but it started raining, messed up the events, and the time got all messed up, and they ended up not doing it. So
Okay.
couldn't do that. So then, my knees really put me on a strongman when I did that 2003. I did 3 contests that year. Went to nationals, and then my left knee had been bad for a long time. Went and got it scoped, and like, oh, you got a big cartilage tear. It's like, well, we can't fix it. That's going to be what it is. Like, you should probably not do this kind of stuff if you don't want to need weights in your food. So I'm like, oh, great. So yeah, I kind of got away from a lot of stuff because I was like, oh, I couldn't do what I wanted to do.
Yeah, and it's tough too because sometimes I'm not saying I'm like guilty of it, but I've had injuries and I go to only if I have to. Like I'll be at the doctor or something, and they'll be like, "How'd you do this?" And I'm like, "Oh, deadlifting or something," and you circle back around and how was it originally hurt? Deadlifting, and they'd be like, "Oh, maybe you should stop deadlifting," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's not going to happen." So but yeah, you run into some of those things. But then I've also had people where like different physical therapy things I've done where it's like they'll circle back around and I've had good ones where they'll be like, "Oh no, like you're basically going to do what you want to do and it's our job to kind of get you back to doing that stuff the best we can because I don't know. It's at some point in time people will kind of be hard headed and they're gonna train or they're gonna still do that kind of stuff. I mean, hell, even right now, maybe you're not squatting and going crazy doing strongman stuff, but look how long you've been lifting since those injuries and the kind of weights you've been moving. I mean, you still kept doing a lot of stuff despite the
Well,
injuries with
yeah,
the knees.
I didn't do much lifting for a long time.
You took a lot of time off then, Jason?
Yeah, after I had that knee surgery, and then, but I was still bench. But then I had 2010, 11. I had both rotator cuffs done.
Okay.
We were both tore both of those. So then I was like, oh, what the hell am I going to do now? I'm really
Falling apart.
so yeah. I didn't do much. I mean, off and on, I would go to the gym and do some stuff. But between then and 2018, I wasn't doing much at all.
Okay. And then around
Then
2018.
2018, Mike Big Smoth was going to open up his own gym. He leases this building, and we get stuff moved in there, and we're working out. And he'd done some strongman. He did a couple masters contests like in that year or just prior, and he met Chad Clark,
Mhm.
and that was 2018, right when Armlifting USA is getting started. Chad told him. I think he told him he ought to hold one of these contests. So Mike said something, yeah, sounds like a good idea. So it was like September. He decided we're going to have one in November.
Okay. And you were already familiar with pretty much kind of the lifts, for quite a while then. I mean, like Rolling Thunder or other stuff that, would have been probably staple events. I mean, this stuff you've probably been seeing for close to almost 20 years or just under at that point. So
Mike got the stuff from Iron Mine. They sent it, and there we go. We had to crush the dust. I think we had like 8 people maybe at that first contest, 8, 9 people. But we did the crush the dust if you wanted to do it before the contest, because I was like right there at 200 on the Rolling Thunder.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing it, and it passed. And
what about Mike? How'd Mike do?
Mike wasn't. His Rolling Thunder wasn't there at the time.
He wasn't ready.
A couple other guys did it too, but they didn't get. We thought they did it, but Randy didn't pass them. I don't know.
Yeah.
The Rolling Thunder for some reason, but so then we went right back into. I think Rolling Thunder was the first event. Then we did Axle. Then we had Hub, Pinch Block, Little Bighorn. And then we had a head-to-head event for the last one where we had a bar set up in the rack, I think with 3 45s or something on each end, something like that. And whoever was in points, you like seeded them, you'd go up against, and you'd each pick up one end and stand there looking at each other, hold it as long as you can.
Yeah.
That was kind of neat.
Well, I think like the head-to-head stuff like that is cool because I mean you see that in some strongman competitions and stuff, where they'll pair people up to kind of make it interesting. Or I've even mentioned doing kind of like super matches in grip as opposed to just having a competition where we add up points or percentages. If you just had 2 guys go head-to-head and agree on events, or even squeezing that in a competition format with other events, I think still a cool idea. So. So you guys are running competitions.
So it doesn't really work with a percentage based. So I forget how he scored it, but I ended up getting Eli Kerr won that. I don't know if you ever heard of Eli. He's from West Virginia.
I feel like I've heard the name, but I'm not too familiar with
it. There's a lot of strongman arm wrestling now. He's into a lot.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, I might if I saw a picture or something, I might know. But I the name seems familiar, but.
Yeah, I think Jed coached him a little bit then, but good guy, strong guy. Oh, John Mauser was there too.
Okay, yeah, and we had John on the show. I think John was episode 16 maybe for the interviews. So yeah, we had John on.
Yeah, that's
And
when I first met John.
yeah, it's kind of funny how
I
everybody
went
kind
up
of
against him
overlaps.
in the first.
Oh
I went
yeah,
up against him in the first round of the old. We're
how'd
standing
that
like,
go?
oh man, I'm dying. I'm dying, and he dropped it, and I'm right after he dropped it. I boom boom. I just said smiles.
Yeah.
And then Eli ended up holding on longer than me, and he won the overall there. But
So you and Mike, Mike has the gym through Chad Clark, whatever. You start, finding out about Armlifting USA, and you guys are kind of teaming up, hosting these competitions or competing. Um, is that like every couple months you're trying to host something? Is that just like every, 6 months, once a year, like an annual type deal? Um, does that slowly start to kind of become the focus of what your training is kind of training for those type of events and competitions, or how long until you guys were
yeah,
doing more
yeah. I
competitions
mean,
and hosting more?
that's something I can train towards. I
Yeah.
can still kind of deadlift, so I can. So yeah, that became did the other bench and whatever back work and whatever. But yeah, that was the focus.
Okay.
But yeah, there was a guy, Jason Gonzalez, came. He's from around Dayton. He came to that contest, and he's like, "Hey, you guys ought to go to Chris Rice's here in a few weeks. He's having the last grip miss that he's gonna have." And we never knew any of this was going on.
Yeah.
An hour and a half away from us all those years.
Yeah.
And
Because
he's
what
like, all these guys
Chris
are coming.
Chris is like in like Crooksville, Ohio, or something, which
Yeah,
isn't too far from you.
just south of Zanesville.
Yeah. All right.
Maybe an hour and 15 minutes, not very far. But yeah, we had no idea what was going on. And he's like, "Yeah, this is the last one. A bunch of people are coming."
So did you guys make that
So
trip
we
and compete there?
we went there and met a bunch of people. Jed and Luke and Tim Butler was there. I think Vinny. I mean, there were just a bunch
And
of people.
what year was that for like the last grip miss that
That
he
was
did?
2018.
Okay, so it was about okay.
It was like 3 weeks after Mike's contest.
Okay, so basically with the arm lifting stuff being introduced to you, and then you guys are finding out about grip sport stuff happening like an hour and a half away at Chris Rice's, you pretty much just found out about both worlds kind of within a
Oh
couple months of
yeah,
each other. And you're meeting all these different characters and all this stuff and everything like that. Do you remember what the events were for Gripmas that year, roughly?
yeah. It was the 20 millimeter block set grippers, Euro, axle, and then it was like those were like the main three. But then you could do like a bunch of any people were doing like record breakers. I think Luke was doing like a little bighorn or something. People were doing. Was there a medley too? There was a medley.
Okay, I
Yeah,
figured there probably would have been. Yeah.
and then there was all you could like do for, but I didn't do. Yeah, I think my right hand was hurt. I didn't do the grippers. Going in, Mike asked if we could run an Arm Lifting USA contest with it because they'd started Arm Lifting USA started their rankings that year, and it was like top three get invited to go to Russia, Team USA, and I was like, I don't know, I was right there, but let's say they used Silver Bullet, Rolling Thunder, and Axle. We
Mhm.
didn't do Silver Bullet at Mike's, but I was like, if I can do a decent Silver Bullet, I could get into third place.
Yeah.
So Mike asked Chris if he minded. So no, he's like, yeah, you can run that. So people were doing like Axle. We went for both.
So almost kind of like a dual
Well,
sanction
so
before
yeah,
it
so
was.
I didn't do grippers because I wanted to. Only thing I really cared about was Silver Bullet. I wanted to try to do decent
Mhm.
on. So I didn't do the block set grippers, but then I did the Euro, did the Axle. Then we did Silver Bullet, and there were
Did you feel
like
like
I
your
don't
hand held up for that though?
no, I mean my right hand was already hurting, and I ended up getting a 3.5 or like 5 seconds or something, which was good and was what I'm good enough to get into like third place, but what I wanted,
Okay.
but it wasn't. Yeah, it
Do you
wasn't. It
remember?
wasn't.
You remember who won Gripmas that year? Just curious.
Jed.
Oh, name
Jed won.
Paul.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think he beat out. I think Aaron Corcoran. I think he was second. I think it
Okay.
was
Yeah.
close.
That's Aaron Corcoran's a solid name that doesn't come up
Oh yeah,
as much anymore. But yeah, during I don't want to say the heyday of some of those competitions, yeah, Aaron Corcoran, ridiculously strong and very well rounded. But I think
yeah,
that's a
big
name that a lot of
grippers.
newer lifters
Yeah.
aren't familiar with. But yeah, Aaron was a strong guy and a staple in a lot of those events, and right there. Yeah, man, it's just cool hearing some of those older names get brought up, and like I said, because a lot of those people I eventually intend on having them on the show sometime when I can. Um, so from there, like I said, that was almost not necessarily dual sanctioned, but in a way, you guys kind of ran. They're running their thing. You're kind of throwing events in to qualify for other stuff at the same time, and
Yeah,
it
some of
probably
the guys, some jumped in and did the arm lifting, but I think
yeah.
most people just was stuck with the other because we couldn't do the medley because we were running like Rolling Thunder downstairs in this gym. I think when that was going on, it was all kinds of stuff going on. It was
So a little more loose and just kind of freestyle as opposed to like this like complete divide where this is what I mean? Like this event counts for that. There was kind of a I don't want to say a little bit like, kind of chaotic, but yeah, you guys are kind of all on different pages or just doing different stuff. And maybe before everything for both organizations got a little more dialed in as time went on, or I don't know. Is that accurate or not?
I don't know. I mean, I didn't know what was going on at that point. This
Right.
was something contest
Just
and
lifting stuff.
few weeks I didn't know. I'm just
Yeah. Um, and then what
no.
did
I
the
think they had all
competition,
their guys.
what did the
I don't know.
competitions
They
look
were,
like? Okay. What did the competitions look like moving on from that? Like, did you kind of making those contacts where you're like, oh well, we're going for Team USA on this Russia thing for Armlifting USA. Boom, we're gonna do that. Hey, when we get back, we got this stuff for Grip Sport. Like, did you start kind of competing more on both sides, I guess, or sort of making it a point to do that? Because I know like nowadays you and Mike with the EOGC, right? The Eastern Ohio grip championship, right? Or grip challenge. Uh a lot of times you guys are dual sanctioning stuff. Is that
yeah,
around that those
it
early
has been for
years?
years.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, I don't know when we started. If it was in the second year or not, doing that, putting GSI in there too. I don't know. The second or
Mhm.
third one we started, I think.
Okay. And then
But yeah, I mean, so I ended up qualifying to go to got invited to go to Russia, and so did my wife, and so did Mike.
was that the first time
So
Armlifting USA went like international with that?
none of those guys had been.
Was the year
Ricardo
before?
had been Ricardo, and I know he'd been there once before. I think he went 2017.
Okay.
Clay and Ode had been there, I think, at least a couple times
All right.
before 2018. Dolly Chung was over there, I think, in 2017. I think he went. So they went over before, but just with like maybe three,
Okay.
four
Kind of
people or
smaller
something.
crew.
But then when we went 2018, that's when they had the ranking and stuff. And what do we have? 13, 14 people? I forget. Maybe more. Yeah, there was more than that.
Okay. And that's probably like the most depth you guys had. Up until that point, there were maybe smaller groups, and then that was like a bigger Team USA that was
Yeah, that's when they were
making.
really. Yeah, when Arm Wrestling USA really got started over here. That was the
Okay.
first. Yeah, Tanner went. Tanner Merkel.
Okay.
A lot of guys. Yeah, it was a good group. Uh,
Uh,
I did not. I got no medals. No medals from Russia. I did poorly.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're like, I mean, we got this chance to go. It's like, man, I've never been out of the country before. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, let's go. You never know what'll happen what'll happen. You might as well take the opportunity. And good thing we did because
Yeah. I mean, especially like I
if
said, look at some of the stuff you and Mike have
never
done
been.
since. Yeah.
Yeah, we had the whole trip planned again for 2020. Had everything booked, and that went. But
Right. Yeah.
yeah, so that was May 2019. We went over there, and I meet Arto Ironin, and Hari Talonen was there, and Tommy Tuomi.
I say, were you sorry, were you familiar with those names from seeing them maybe in other lifting stuff? Because I know like Hari had like the
I
Iron
saw
Mike Hub
Arto and
record.
Hari in at the Arnold the first year they had
Yeah, okay, I figured you probably
the
were familiar with them.
2019. They had the small contest where they did an event each day. The first
Yeah.
year they had it, and I went on Friday and watched. So I saw those guys then, but
Hmm.
then when we were in Russia, got around them, and Arto's like, "Oh, you should come to my contest in Finland in August."
Right, and that's the Bone Hill,
Yeah, and I'm like,
right?
"Are you serious?" Like, I can't believe I'm in Russia. And then so we ended up, 3 months later going to Finland,
Yeah, kind
and
of
then
all
I said,
it's like all pretty quick too, especially within like a year or two. You're like,
yeah, and I wasn't even that good.
yeah. But like I said, I mean, to where you're at now, I mean, obviously you've raised your level majorly over the span of that. But yeah, like
Yeah, it took a
looking
couple
back on it,
years. It wasn't fast.
yeah, for sure. And that's why it's kind of funny to me though, because like in your head, like right now, yes, you're at a very high level, but then you're thinking like, man, you probably wish you could almost go back to those international competitions early on with the stuff that you're doing right now. And it's like, I don't know, we always wish we could almost, in hindsight, kind of, oh, I wish I was a little more experienced. But you're in the moment, you're just kind of taking advantage of it when you can. And at that point in time, it's just, you got what you got and you got to make do. But that's also part of the reason that you probably have become the lifter and the grip athlete that we see today is because you did get those experiences and you jumped in when you weren't necessarily at your peak or best or, maxing out your potential. And it probably helped get you to where you are now, I would say. Um, so you're traveling internationally, competing in Russia, Finland, stuff like that. Um, I want to say the first time, like I mentioned earlier, that I saw you in the like on Jed's live stream. I want to say the first time I remember seeing your name was for the Diesel Crush Classic because I was seeing this guy, Jed Johnson, in his YouTube videos and stuff. And he was like live streaming the event. I'm just finding out about the sport. I'm tuning in, watching YouTube on the TV, and he's posting something. And I see, okay, this Jason Dingey guy, right? And he's lifting some big stuff. And then I just see Jed as having the YouTube channel, right? That's the guy that's putting out all this content and stuff and I see that he's hosting this Diesel Crush Classic, and I see that he got beat by you. So you won that competition. That's the first time I really was like, oh, who's this guy? Let me, look into what he's doing. But that wasn't too long after that. Was that like 20?
That was 2021.
Okay, I was gonna say maybe shortly after some of the stuff we just talked
I'm pretty
about.
sure it was 21.
Yeah, and that was right about
Like
the year I discovered
February
the sport.
something, or
That would make sense to me because I
it was
say
early February. Yeah, because it was right around my birthday. Yeah.
I think I kind of found out about the sport myself from seeing stuff online around maybe mid to late 2020. And then I really started to kind of familiarize around early 21. And then I jumped in about halfway through 21 doing some competitions. But yeah, that was the first time I came across your name was winning that competition. So um, I guess
Yeah, I gave Jed a pretty good whipping that day.
so what was it like maybe going from some of those competitions where you said, I wasn't really that good then, or I really hadn't, maybe kind of hit your stride and then you are, maybe within a 2 year period, taking on some of the best and actually holding your own or beating them in certain competitions. Was that just a mixture of you kind of familiarizing yourself with the sport, changing the way you trained? What kind of led to that, I guess, increase in your level at that point?
Well, after I met Jed at Gripmas in 2018, I started he started coaching me.
Okay.
Shortly out, it was right at the end of that year, right at the end of 2018, we started. And I remember I got sick the first week we started training with him, and it set me back for a long time. Anyway, yeah, it took a while, but yeah, so I trained with him for about 2 years,
You
all
feel like you made
19.
pretty big jumps around that time?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
2020. Yeah, I made a lot of progress that year.
And then when you, let's say you got to a certain point, with already having a training background, working with Jed some, maybe around the 2 year mark, did you just kind of think that like, okay, hey, I kind of know what to do now. Okay, I kind of, I've been showed the ropes. I can, kind of do this on my own, and then you kind of just branched off. How did your training look, after that time period? Is there anything you really changed up, or did you kind of keep a lot of the same principles and just
Yeah,
maybe
yeah, it
tweak it
was.
for
I mean,
yourself?
we had figured out what worked for me over that time.
Hmm.
So, I just figured out what to do, like when I'd be setting my program up, he'd ask me, what do you want to do? And, I tell him, and he thought that, that was a good idea or whatever. So I just got familiar enough with it to where, where I thought I could do it myself. It's
Okay.
always nice to have someone outside looking at your stuff, though.
Oh yeah, for sure. I would agree. Yeah,
So I mean, if
it's
like
easy to
money
get
were no
lost.
object, it would be always be nice to have, I'd still be having him coach me. I guess
Yeah.
it's always good to have somebody else looking at you.
Yeah, because like I said, sometimes we get lost in our own world sometimes, or you just kind of get into a rut doing the same stuff.
Yeah.
And every now and then I've had people, other people reach out, or we'll be talking training, and I just get ideas, from always kind of collaborating and talking to other people. Um, or somebody else might notice something you're doing lifting and be like, hey, well, why are you doing that? Didn't you just talk about this? And you get your, I don't know, they just kind of like, jog your memory a bit, or they kind of like, hey, try this, and then boom, you're back on track. So yeah, I think sometimes like yeah, training by yourself is a good thing for sure because you get to figure yourself out sometimes, and you're not influenced too much by trying to beat other people. I see that a lot in our sport, I think, where people look at what these other guys are doing and they start trying to do the same thing. But it, like you said, you found out what worked for you, or when you and Jed were working together, you're finding out what kind of worked for you and how to kind of play off that. That might not be the same approach for somebody else he was coaching at the time or somebody else that was doing something, so I think that's an important part of training that gets overlooked, that there's not this cookie cutter. There's a lot of principles that'll stay the same, but there's not this cookie cutter thing that, oh, let's all just do the same thing and it's all equal return. Everybody's different. Everything has
Yeah.
to be adjusted differently. So sometimes when you're by yourself figuring stuff out, it's, in my opinion, it's almost a little bit better because you don't have that outside influence where, and I can rant pretty good. I can probably rant with the best of them, but you'll get people that they've been training for 4 months and then they see some guy that's been doing this for 10 years and they're like, oh, well, that's what he does. I'm going to start just doing that and add that into the program. And sometimes it's like, yeah, but did you follow what he did for 8 years before he got to doing that, or you think you're just going to do that? And the, I don't know. Like I said, everybody's different and everybody has a different path. Not one way is the only way, but um, both sides work. There's benefit, I think, to training by yourself, figuring things out on your own without the outside influence or trying to be someone else. And then I also think that sometimes when you've already sort of done what you can do, or you're in a certain lane, it's nice to have that outside input and kind of open up the mind and branch out a little bit as well. And a mixture of that usually gets people performing better, in my opinion. But I don't know. Any take on that? Like I said, with you mentioning that, you kind of found what worked for you. Are there any mistakes that you see people making in training like that, where maybe they're trying to imitate someone else, or they're trying to do things maybe they're not ready for? Like I said, that's just a total kind of a random question on spot, but yeah.
Hell, I don't know.
You
It's hard.
don't know. Gotcha.
Everybody's so different. It's hard to say.
Yeah. No, it for sure is. I was just curious. But yeah, that's something I notice a little bit is people will instantly jump right in because, oh, so and so's a big name and they said do this. and then they're doing it, and it's like you've been
It
training
might
for.
work.
Yeah, it
Might
might.
be
Well, it
good.
might.
Not. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't
So,
know.
or
I
they
just,
might. Yeah.
I thought by getting him right away, by getting Jed, like, because
Mhm.
I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
I know you're not gonna, I don't know, do it the same way as you would powerlifting training, sets and reps like that, or at least that's what I thought. So I'm like, you know, I'm not young. I want to let this just get some instruction here and right out of the start, not waste any time.
Yeah.
So
And then
I think it helped a lot. It was well worth it.
okay. Yeah.
So
And did bringing up all your past injuries since you've switched to grip sport and arm lifting and kind of doing this style of training and lifting more, have any of those past injuries bothered you? Have you had any new injuries since competing in the sport that you could go
I
into
mean,
detail
my
about?
knees still suck. They're only getting worse. Not sometimes now it hurts deadlifting. Some days my knees never used to, but back lately,
Mm-hmm.
off and on for the last year. Really, I don't know. It hurting right now. I don't know what's going on. I go back to the chiropractor in the morning. So hopefully I
Yeah.
can lift that axle Saturday. I don't know.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Because yeah, pulling some weights this weekend. Right. Going to be lifting pretty
Oh,
heavy. So yeah. Yeah.
yeah. There's always
Um.
something. I mean, I'm
You you
52 now. Good.
you did tear a bicep, right, in one of these
Oh
competitions?
yeah,
What?
yeah. 2021.
I know for grip sport, that for vertical lifts especially, that's one of. I mean, there's finger pulley injuries and stuff on certain things, maybe like crimp
Yeah.
grips or like rim lift type stuff. That stuff happens. Adjustable thick bar. Sometimes people doing feats. I know people have popped finger pulleys doing stuff. But one of the most common things we see in our sport is the single hand lifts getting heavy and someone tearing a bicep. What was it like when you tore your bicep? I mean, I've never done it. So what was it like? Did that hurt? Did it not
Uh,
hurt? Or what did it feel
yeah.
like?
I mean, it just hurt for just like a second, really, and then just kind of like a dull pain after that. But
Yeah.
you could hear it snap. I'm like, what?
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I was doing what the hilt,
Yeah. Like
whatever
it
you want to
basically,
call it,
yeah,
2 inch.
2 inch carabiner V bar.
I
Yeah.
wasn't even like I never supinated a lot either at the start. I didn't think not a lot
Yeah.
like some people do anyway. But yeah, that's what it
Yeah.
went on my left arm.
What was recovery like for that? Did you end up having surgery or anything? Or what was it like
Oh
kind of bouncing back?
because the distal here down by the elbow. They said you
Yeah.
got to get that fixed.
Hmm.
It's no good if you. So yeah, I mean it was 6 months before
Okay.
I
And then,
really before I could really do anything lifting wise with it. That's what they. I did. It was in physical therapy for a few months doing stuff, but I didn't. After 6 months, I started deadlifting again and that, but
okay. And
it's been
then
fine since. But
that's what I was going to ask you is knowing that you had past injuries where you had torn some stuff in the knee, shoulders, whatever, you had come back to handle heavy weights after injuries before, mentally. Um, when you tore your bicep, when you got back into vertical lifting or doing grip type stuff, was there ever like a mental block or any hesitation where you were like, ah, man, that might happen again, or after like you were a little more like
oh yeah,
weary about it?
oh
And
yeah, I thought a lot about it.
And then what, I guess, how long did it take you to kind of get over that? Or what was your method of getting over that other than just kind of building back up slow and maybe just,
Yeah, just ease into it. I don't know.
okay.
I think I just started. I was doing them all with my right for like a year after that. Anything, but then I got back to using the left hand after I don't know, a year and a half or something maybe.
It hasn't really bothered
But
you since, or have you ever really felt anything
no,
with it or
no,
it feels good?
no. I never had any. I mean, I never had anything before it would happen. It was like
Yeah.
nothing
Just,
that would signal something was. It would just all of a sudden snap.
yeah, just
I never had
when,
any pain down there or anything, but
yeah.
no,
I
I
think
guess
that's,
I just pronate more when
hmm
I do. I'm really like I don't supinate at all. I guess neutral or pronated some when I
Yeah.
start. But
Because I think that's kind of how like Steve Millard, he tore his bicep, I think, last year at a competition. But I think it was kind of the same thing. I don't think there was necessarily like any like build up or indicator or, oh, I felt pain for a week. I think it just kind of went, right? I mean, a lot of times I feel like that's how tendon stuff kind of is. It just goes. So yeah, there's sometimes it's not like, oh, I was trying to tough through it and it just went. It's like, no, it just there was no indicator and it's just gone and boom, just pops. And then you're like, well, hell. Um, but yeah,
yeah,
and
he didn't have to have surgery though. He didn't. I forget exactly what happened on his. Tim Butler's hurt. He said he thought he tore biceps on Little Bighorn also.
hmm,
But so you can tear the insertion up here in the shoulder. There's like two different points, and if you tear one, you can usually get away with not having it surgery.
mhm.
I remember reading it. It said it'll latch on somewhere. It'll heal, but when you blow the one down your elbow, when it tears all the way, there's
Yeah.
you know really need to fix.
So if I just kind of go down the line, like I said, we talked about some injuries, talked about some past competitions. If I go a little more to I guess here the last couple years, um, you've I mean you obviously won the North Americans when they brought that back. You won the North American Grip Sport Championship, and that was up in Canada here the last year in 24. Which was a big win with a pretty stacked field. That was a real cool competition to check out. Bummed I couldn't make it there in person, but it was cool watching it online. Um, what other competitions have kind of been significant for you that you have won? Because I feel like you've won a national. I mean, you've won a nationals or two. Like I said, I don't.
2022 nationals I won.
Okay. And are there any other competitions where you've maybe won a nationals or won a big competition or won your weight class in certain things that kind of stand out to you? Or I guess I should ask you what performance or what placing in these competitions is kind of I don't want to say your top moment, but which one did you kind of feel the best about?
The North American.
The most well recent big
Yeah,
competitions with
yeah. I
North
mean, that was
Americans.
the most competition
Hmm.
that I've won against. The most good lifters and all that
Okay. Yeah.
over a
So
bunch of events.
yeah, I say 2 day competition, 40 item medley. So okay, yeah, I was just curious, like I said, because I know you're usually right there at the top of your weight class or top of wherever you're at, and one or two are right there at the edge of the podium for some of these bigger things like the Arnold and other stuff too. So I just was curious about your kind of what performance stood out to you in North Americans makes sense, and that's actually pretty recent, and that's a competition I think people were really kind of gunning for and wanting to come back. So yeah, you had a very good performance at that. So moving forward, I guess getting ready for the worldwide grip battle that Jed's doing for kind of a multi-venue format. And that's what you're referring to here coming up in the next, few. Well, technically it's running from what, the 8th to the 22nd of February. And then the Arnold is boom right there, first,
Yeah.
into February, first couple days of March. Um, I assume, yeah, you're doing the Arnold. You mentioned some injuries or kind of back bothering you a little bit. How are you feeling getting ready for these next two competitions coming up?
Well, not real good right now.
No, I got
I mean, not with the back. I mean, that's the big. When your back's hurt, it's like
everything.
I don't know. It's feeling better than it was. I don't know. Maybe after tomorrow, go to the chiropractor. Maybe I'll be ready Saturday. I don't know. I'll just have to start easing into it. But I'm not gonna. If it, I don't want to further mess it up and then mess it up with the Arnold. So we'll see what happens Saturday. How it feels.
Yeah. And
I don't
then
know.
I always bring this up for certain people, certain lifters. You've also done a lot of things like double thumbless inch dumbbell lifts, plate pinching stuff, different blob lifts. So you've done a lot of feats of strength as well. Do you have anything on that side? Obviously, competition, you're chasing the podium, you're trying to get first in your weight class, or whoever shows up that day, you're trying to beat them. But when it's you competing with yourself and you just are setting goals out for yourself against these objects that, hey, you lift it or you don't, what's kind of on your goal list when it comes to the feats of grip strength?
I'll lift the bigger dumbbells. I got a 95 and a 104. So
Didn't you
I
didn't you
lifted
already
the
lift the 95?
95 with a
Yeah.
tilt.
Okay, you just want to get it
Uh,
level?
yeah, and so those and combos with the 255 plate pinch. I want to do that. I've done the plates by themselves, but I haven't done any combos with them. Inch, thumbless inch.
Yeah. And that's another thing to point out for
I
you
don't think
too.
I've seen anybody do thumbless inch in the 255s yet.
I don't know that I have either,
That's
honestly.
usually what. Yeah, see, I don't think I've
Yeah.
seen that.
And then if they even if they did, the thumbless would be the catch on that one too, because you're in an interesting spot because you're one of the few people that I've come across that I feel like your regular dumbbell lifts or thick bar lifts versus your thumbless thick bar lifts are pretty equal. Most people kind of drop off one or the other. Yours are pretty much like even. So hypothetically, let's just say someone did pinch 255s, red plates, and hit an inch dumbbell lift, you could still walk up and probably hit it thumbless just as easy, and that'd be, kind of uncharted territory that way. But yeah, I don't know of anybody that's pinched two reds and lifted the inch dumbbell replica at the same time. So that'd be a cool one to see happen. Um,
Oh,
and maybe
certainly somebody has. Hasn't Jed done that?
I don't know. I mean,
I would think. Yeah, he certainly. Yessi Pinonin. I don't know. I know he's lifted like
I've seen him do two
he
reds in both
definitely.
hands.
Yeah, so I mean, he
You
definitely
know,
could.
yeah, they definitely could. I guess some of this stuff is not necessarily, could someone do it? It's just have they done it? But that's a lot of
I
things
don't
in
know.
our
I
sport.
thought several people had probably done it. I thought doing it thumbless was one that I probably hasn't been done or that I've seen, but
Man, it's
I don't
tough to
know.
say because yeah, like someone like Jesse Pignon definitely could do
I
it, but I
assumed
don't.
he has, and I assumed Jed, and I don't know who else.
Yeah, and maybe I'm just referring to recent videos I've seen where I've only seen guys single hand lifting reds, but I haven't seen them put anything in
Yeah,
their other hand.
I don't know.
We'll have to
We'll have to
look
ask
into
Jed.
it. Or hey, if you've done the feat, shoot us the link down in the comments below if you've made it this far. Let's show us the feat. But but no, those are all really good ones. And then I'm trying to think, is there any other like certifications or feats on your list that you're kind of trying to knock off? Other than bigger bells, maybe comboing the red plates with something. Trying to think of anything else to
Yeah, like
add.
bigger blob, bigger than Blobzilla, something
Okay. Yeah.
sometime.
And as much as I love blobs get a little bit tough because the hand size eventually becomes a limiting factor. If you think about like inch dumbbells being the same, it's like imagine if the heavier inch dumbbells the handle got thicker too.
Yeah.
It would totally change the game, right? Um, so I love blobs. I'll always be a blob lifter in pro blob, but that is the only downside with me in like sort of the love-hate relationship with blobs is that my hand can only be so big, you know. Um, and I reach a certain point and I'm just like, I might be close to my like just hand potential when it comes to the hand size. Now you could always take blobs that fit in your power zone and add weight to them, and you can always clean, snatch, curl, and do other feats with them and combo them. But when you're just talking max blob lift, at some point, hand size becomes a limiting factor, and that's my only thing that bums me out about me liking to lift blobs so much is that I do hit a ceiling at some point. Um, I'm trying to think if there's something else I was going to bring up. I'm trying to remember now, Jason. Sorry, I'm kind of zoning out on you here. But talked about the competitions, talked about the feats, talked about kind of coming through injuries and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know. Do you have anything else to kind of add as far as training or competition stuff goes? And you know what? Actually, I got something else for you real quick. Sorry. With you being in the sport as long as you have and kind of seeing some of this, what are some of your favorite feats that you've witnessed other people do over the years? Like what are some big moments that sort of stand out to you? I don't want to say all that are inspirational or something, but yeah, if there's anything that maybe you watch it and you're kind of like, oh man, that was a cool lift, or that was kind of a milestone moment for the sport. Anything that kind of comes to your mind when we talk about that?
Anybody cleaning the inch dumbbell, that's always impressive.
Well, it's impressive to us, but the YouTube commenters not so much. Anybody can do it, right?
Ben's crazy with that.
Yeah.
I mean, Carl's done it.
Hmm.
Kim Johansson, seen him do it.
Kim Strong. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, and that's the thing. Yeah, cleaning the inch, it just takes a lot of power. A lot of power on that one. Aside from inch cleans, anything else that stands out? Just cool ones that you've seen. Or I know I'm putting you on the spot, and you can name 100 of them, but just for what it's worth, I mean, if there's anything that comes to your mind, just I didn't know if you had a certain list or certain
Well,
things
I
in your
always
mind.
thought Jed. No, I've done it, but remember years ago, Jed doing it was called the feat of the year, where you'd do a number 4 silver bullet and lift the inch at the same time. That combo.
Yeah.
That was always a big one I wanted to do, and he did it with he switched hands. He did it one way,
Oh, I did both hands.
and then did both. And I did that I think last year or yeah.
That's pretty.
I'd done it a few years ago, maybe with one gripper in the right and inch in the left, but then I think I messed around with it again last year. Yeah, it was when I trained Silver Bullet for North Americans. I think I did it. Switched the hands like he did and did it.
Yeah, that's not one you see too
I
often
saw
either.
that one neat. Never saw. I think that Hugh Haru maybe did
Okay.
that. He might have been the first one to do that, like a long time ago,
Yeah, and
more
that's
than
another
10
name.
years ago or something.
And yeah, and that's another name that doesn't get brought up as often anymore. But I mean, was a monster back in the day. Back in the day,
Yeah,
not
I
too
remember
long
those
ago.
old YouTube videos.
Yeah, I actually had to talk. I was having to talk about. I guess it's Yuha or Juha, whatever, Haru, however you want to say it. But yeah, I was having to talk with somebody else the other day about that, saying that he was one of the first people that when I tuned into the sport and was going back and watching like old videos to kind of catch up on it. Um, my training background, being familiar with, accommodating resistance, with chains and bands and stuff, I was like, oh, this is a dude. He's one of the first guys I saw that was adding chains to a lot of his lifts and stuff like that. That, you can go still watch videos 15 years ago in Grip on his YouTube channel, and he was doing that stuff. So, yeah, yeah, Yuha or however you pronounce the name. Yeah, he's somebody that didn't he win King Kong one year as well, I believe. Um,
You don't know.
but he was, I mean, he was a monster in Grip back then, and I don't know, if he just kind of fell out with it, or over time just kind of strayed away from it, or what he's up to these days. But yeah, that's a name that gets overlooked a little bit during that time period, I believe. Um, but yeah, he's definitely one of those dudes that I saw doing a lot of different combos way back, and a lot of different training methods too, that now people think they're like doing something special or reinventing the wheel. And I'm like, yeah, dude, there's guys 15, 20 years ago already on film doing that. Like, yeah, you're not coming up with nothing new. But um oh man, yeah, that was with feats. Trying to think about anything else to add, Jason. That might be about it for me. Like I said, I don't want to string it out. If you don't have anything else or any other topics, I don't want to string you along, but I definitely want to give you a chance to bring up and talk about whatever, or if we have a subject we could get on. But I also don't want to force it either. And I already badgered you on competitions and feats and everything else, and got most of the storyline and timeline down. But yeah, I guess could sort of wrap up and say, what are kind of your future goals in the sport? And I know we mentioned the near future with these next couple competitions coming up. what are kind of your long-term goals in the sport that you would be looking to kind of knock out, whether that's as a competitor, as somebody that's hosting, or whatever your involvement in the sport may be? What are some of those future goals?
As far as lifts, I would like to do 300 on the 3x4 sacks, and that's something.
Have you hit that in training yet?
I did 290 in training a few months ago.
Mm-hmm.
I guess do 330 on the 2x5.
Yeah, which are huge lifts. I mean, that's getting up there. And then
I'd always hope to do 500 on the axle, but I don't know if that's gonna.
feel like legs, knees and back.
Yeah, back. I don't know. We'll see. But that was always. But my axle, it hasn't moved hardly for the last 2 years since I first did 440. It's been right there.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I like to win nationals again. I mean, of course.
Yeah.
North American. I mean, yeah, that was.
Yeah, because technically you would be what did for Grip Sport International. Jed took nationals last year, right? In California. So Jed technically would be the national champ right now. You're the North American champ, and then yeah, I mean, North Americans wouldn't be contested again until 2026. So this year we have nationals. And that'll be taking place at the end of May. I don't know if I assume Jed would probably attend nationals. I don't know how hardcore he's been training or how much he's gunning for it, but technically he would be the defending champ, right? So, yeah, a showdown between you two would be good again. Seems to be that way last, I don't know, several years. You guys have had some pretty good battles. Other people sprinkled in the mix too. I mean, performing very well. But for a lot of the nationals, you and Jed have kind of been battling it out. And it's always been good to see and kind of witness in person when I've been able to make it. So yeah, obviously do Worldwide Grip Battle, Arnold, jump into nationals in May, and then I don't want to jump too far ahead in the future, but yeah, any other like long-term goals other than, like you said, the certain numbers you threw out there on the big lifts, and we already kind of covered feet. So yeah, I guess that probably is about out of everything, isn't it?
Pretty much.
Yeah. Any final words, Jason, before I wrap up on you here?
No.
Nope. Good to go. Okay. No, man, that's good. Hey, man, thanks. Thanks for taking the time to do the interview and just give us a little bit of background. I don't know. Like I said, everybody comes from different backgrounds. Everybody has a different path. And the sport's very unique because of that, the way that everybody, sort of has a different route that we all sort of find it, and we all come into it bringing different things to the table. And yeah, honestly, look forward to seeing you at some of these upcoming competitions since we're both in Ohio now. And yeah, like I said, thanks for doing the show, man. And see you at some of these future competitions soon. And hopefully I'll outlift you one of these days.
We'll see. We'll see about that.
What about that?
You can beat me like when I tore my biceps. Mike beat me. Is that what you're going to do? One of those?
No.
Hollow victory.
Check this out, Jason. Now, if you were to tear a bicep or completely zero an event, I wouldn't go on and claim that victory.
No, somebody does. Somebody hoist the trophy proudly.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, if you had an injury or something messed up like that happened, I wouldn't be running around publicly like, "Hey, you guys know Jason Dingey? Yeah, I outlifted him." If I got my ass beat in the other events, no, I wouldn't do that. So
yeah, it was still kind of close. Even my 5 to his 6 events.
Is that the only time Mike's beat you in competition? Was when you got injured?
Yeah, naturally. Yeah, I mean, come on.
Just not even close.
Hey, the first King Kong we did, he beat me on the crusher.
Really?
The first year we did King Kong on the 2.5 crusher, 2.5 inch.
Mike,
He
yeah,
beat me.
Mike needs to be examined. He's one of the
I'm not in the contest, of course. That
he's
was
one of the strongest people on rolling handles that struggled for so long with the inch. And I was so glad at this past year's King Kong when he finally was like hoisting it up numerous times, because I'm like, you can't be that strong on other thick bar things, Mike, and not pick this thing up. So, yeah, I was glad that we finally just got that out of the way, because dude was pulling
the,
pretty solid numbers on rolling handles, and then he's like, I can't lift that dumbbell, and I'm like, dude, like, just based off the math, you have to be able to lift it. I'm not taking that answer. Um, so that's funny, but no, Jason, legitimately, man, you pull major lifts, but yeah, I wouldn't take a cheap win, but if there's ever an event lineup that I can get you at, yeah, I'm still going to be gunning for you, even if you're a little bit out of my league right now. So, uh, still on the chase. But yeah, no, for real, thanks for taking the time. And yeah, see you at a competition soon. And yeah, we'll end with that, man.
all right, man.
All right.